Hey guys, today we're going to be continuing on with the idea of taxes and tips, and we're going to finish out lesson 10 today. So that means you will complete the cool down today. So today, again, you're going to need a pencil, your workbook, and your Chromebook for both the calculator and this video. Ask you guys as your cool down for yesterday to answer the two questions that are on the top of page number 64 and complete those and answer them off to the side for me. Go ahead and go through how to solve them. Okay, so we're talking about tax rate here. The tax rate's the actual percentage. So for example, in Northwest Arkansas, tax rate for most items is about 9%. I did have a couple people writing like 9 cents per dollar. And yes, although that is technically 9%, we want you to write it in the terms of percentages. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk through these problems. So when we first look, think back to activity 2. Question here is, how did you determine the tax rates for the items in city 1 and the city 2 from last activity? So when we completed these, we actually determined the tax rates by figuring out, hey, what's my percentage here? And then applying it to the rest of them. And we use proportions for that. If you remember, for the first one, for example, we did $8 equals 100%. 48 cents equals question mark. And then we went through and solved it. We did 100 divided by 8, took that number, which was 12 and a half, times 0.48, and we ended up getting for this first one 6. That means that the sales tax rate for this one was 6%. 6%. Okay. And we did the same thing over here as well. So when we look at this right here, when we look at this right here, you should be able to see hey, this is a very similar situation, and we're trying to find what is the sales tax rate for this city. So again, we're going to solve it very similarly to how we solved the last question. So we have $8, which is our OG amount, our 100%. So what $8 equals 100%. And the other thing we know is 58 cents. We also know 58 cents. So we're going to put that under our dollars because you always match up the items, percent over percent, dollars over dollars. Okay. So now we can go ahead and solve it. Okay. 100 divided by 8, which is 12.5. And then we're going to take 12.5 and multiply it by 0.58, and you should get 7.25. That means the sales tax rate for this city was 7.25%. Some of you guys put 7% down, and although the 7% would be a correct or a kind of correct answer, it's it rounded. We're looking for the exact percentage. So we're looking for 7.25%. Okay. So now we're going to use that information actually to help us solve the next question, which is, what was the amount of the laundry soap? What was the amount of the laundry soap? Okay. So I'm going to take away my picture here so you can see it. So if we know it's 7.25%, so we're looking for 7.25% of 12. So I'm going to actually erase my proportions that I have up there. Okay. So again, so we know 12 equals 100%. And I want to know what number equals 7.25%. Okay, so now we can go ahead and work through and solve it. We're going to do 12 divided by 100, which is 0.12. And now we're going to take 0.12 times 7.25 and you should get an amount of 87 cents. 87 cents. So the sales tax on this was 87 cents. Now, if we're thinking all together, like how much is that Andre soap going to cost after sales tax, we would add these two, because remember, sales tax is an increase. Sales tax is always an increase. Okay. And that leads us to our final activity for this lesson, dining at a restaurant. So this is going to really apply to tips. Tips are something you will have to deal with for the rest of your life. Anytime you go out to eat, it is very customary that if you get good service, that you tip based off of the service. And honestly, no matter what, that you tip. Usually in general, people tip between 15% and 20%. And if it's even better service, people tend to tip more as well. So we're going to be working with, hey, if we know the percentage that we're going to tip, like how much are we going to tip the person? If we know our sales tax, if we know our sales tax, if we know the percentage of our tip, what's going to be our total bill, things like that. So what I would like for you to do, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. I want you to go ahead and I want you to work with the problems on the bottom of page 64, as well as at the top of page 65. I really want you to think about these questions and really think about what it's trying to say. Okay, so here's the scenario. Jada has a meal in a restaurant. She adds up the prices listed on the menu for everything she ordered, and she gets a subtotal of $42. The subtotal is the amount before sales tax, So that's her original amount. Okay. So when the check comes, it also says she needs to pay $3.99 in sales tax. So this is very much like the last question we answered. I want to know what percentage of the subtotal is the total. Okay, what percentage of the subtotal is the total? So I want to know, hey, I want to know really here, what percentage is my sales tax? I want to know what percentage is my sales tax. So if I know my 100% is 42, I want to know $3.99 is what percent. B, after tax, the total is $45.99. What percentage of the subtotal is the total? Really, I want you to think here. You have your 100%, you have whatever your sales tax is. What's your new percentage? And then they actually pay $52.99. The $7 is a tip. What percentage of the subtotal is the tip? So I want to know $7 is what percent of 42. Okay. So I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. You're going to work on this question number 1, as well as question number 2 as well. Read your questions, really think about your proportions, and we'll go over them in just a minute. Sit down and eat. There you go. Wrap it up so it stays fresh, okay? Oh, you made a friend already, did you? You have about 2.5 minutes remaining. 2.5 minutes remaining. Okay, that is our 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and go over the questions now. Okay, so Jada has a meal at a restaurant. She adds up the prices on the menu. And I'm actually going to take away my picture on this one. She adds up the prices on this menu for everything they ordered, and they get a subtotal of $42. Okay, so subtotal is always going to be your original amount. It's always going to be your 100%. Okay, so when the check comes, it says that they also need to pay $3.99 in tax. I want to know what percentage is that $3.99. What's your sales tax rate? Okay, so we know $42 is our OG amount. So 42 is your OG, so it's 100. I want to know $3.99 is what percent? Okay, so now we can go ahead and walk our step-by-step through to solve this. Okay, so 100 divided by 42. 100 divided by 42, which you should have gotten about 2.38. Now, here's the thing, is when you divide that 100 by 42, I'll show you on my screen. When you divide 100 by 42, you're going to end up getting a large decimal, okay? So when you're dealing with that in terms of the proportion, leave that on your calculator. Don't erase it. Don't round it. On your paper, you can round it, but on your calculator, don't round it. Just leave it, okay? Because now we're going to take this number and we're going to go ahead and just press our multiply sign and multiply it by 3.99. And we end up getting an answer like this. And then now we can round it. So the percentage of the subtotal, it's 9.5%. Okay. B, after tax, the total is $45.99. What percentage the subtotal is of the total? Okay, so I want to know what's the overall percentage. So you got to remember, we started out with 100%, and we added on 9.5%. And so now our answer is 109.5%. Okay. C, they actually pay $52.99. The additional $7 is a tip for the server. What percentage of the subtotal is the tip? Remember, in any scenario, your subtotal is always going to be your 100% because that is your original price. So that's what you should always be thinking is, hey, what was my original price? What was my original amount? And so in this case, $42 is my original amount, okay? So here's what we know. We know $42 is equal to 100%. I want to know $7 equals what percent? So we want to know really what percentage did they tip, okay? So we can go ahead and solve this. 100 divided by 42, which remember we get that long number, that 2.38 number. And then we're going to take that 2.38 number and we're going to multiply it by 7. And you should get about 16.7%, somewhere around there. So the percentage they tipped was 16.7%. Okay, so it's key. If you notice, in all of these situations, that proportion helps you set it up. The key is knowing, hey, what is my 100%? What did I start out with? In talking in terms of that problem, and what am I trying to find? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the second problem here. This second problem actually gives us what the sales tax is. It tells us that the sales tax is 9.5%. Tells us that the sales tax is 9.5%. Okay, so I want to know another person's subtotal is $24.95. I just want to know how much is their sales tax. I don't want to know, hey, how much are they paying in all or anything like that. I just want to know what their sales tax is. Okay, so we know $24.95 is your 100%. So 24, whoops, do the best I can here. 95 is 100. Let's just erase that. So $24.95 is 100. And we know in this case that the sales tax is 9.5. So we just want to know 9.5%. Okay, and now we're all set up and we can go ahead and solve the problem. $24.95 divided by 100, you should get 0.2495. And then you're going to take that 0.2495, multiply it by 9.5, and you are going to get $2.37. So the answer to that is $2.37. That's how much they're going to pay in sales tax. Okay. This one's going a little bit backwards. This one's saying, hey, we know their sales tax. We know their sales tax percentage. I want to figure out what 100% is. Okay. I want to figure out what 100% is. So 100%. I'm going to set this up a little bit differently so you can see it works no matter how you set it up. So 100% equals some number. We don't know what that number is. And we know 9.5 equals $1.61. Okay, so now we have it all set up, and again, we can solve it. And even though the ones that we know is on the bottom, we can still do it. So we're going to do $1.61 divided by 9.5. So $1.61 divided by 9.5. We get a really long number. It ends up being about 1.169. And remember, we're going to leave that number on our calculator. Do not erase it from your calculator, okay? Because we're going to press enter, take that number, and multiply it by 100, and we get about $16.94. So about $16.94 is our answer. So that would go where the question mark is. Okay. So the key here, though, is to really focus on using those proportions to help you solve the problems. Because in using those proportions, you can actually find the answer to any percentage problem, no matter what you're working with. Okay, so the cool down you're going to work with today is going to give you, very similar to our first activity here, where it's going to give you a total amount and the sales tax price, and you're going to have to figure out, hey, if for example, the paper towels cost $8, its sales tax is 58 cents. If I buy something that's $12, what's my sales tax going to be? You're going to have to think in terms of what is your percentage here. Figure out your percentage first, and then use that to find your total amount. And then the second question will actually be pretty easy because it's just asking you what its percentage is. Okay. So you're going to go ahead and complete the cool down. And remember, if you have any questions, to please feel free to email me. I'm always available to answer. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.